Welcome, everyone, to the Crystal Starnes Show with your host, Crystal Starnes. Today, we have two special guests that's coming on the show. One is from Pennsylvania, and the other is from Georgia. They have an amazing story to tell all of you. They are actually sisters, but they never knew they were sisters until later in life. So let's start off with introducing Temple, Stehle, and Darlene Williams. Temple, you want to start off saying a little bit about your background and, who you are?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm actually the younger sister. I'll just go, straight into the story. I had kind of an unconventional childhood. Although I think it was maybe kind of the norm in the South, like my grandparents raised me. My mom was very young when she had me, and and so well, she was 19, and but my grandparents ended up raising me. I think that it was just my mom maybe wasn't in the situation to raise me or whatever. So my grandparents took me in, and my mom was still in my life, all of my life, but my grandparents were the primary caregivers. And they had a lot of kids. They had like 8 kids. So I was surrounded by a lot of aunts and uncles and stuff. So even though it was unconventional, living with them, they kept it pretty normal and stable. So I was an only child, and I didn't find out. Actually, it was one of my aunts who told me, I think maybe I don't know if it was my late 20s or 30s. She just actually mentioned that I had a sister. And I was like, oh, or actually, I think she said, I don't know if she said actually like sister or brother, but she's like, yeah, you have another sibling. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? And it was such just a passing comment that she had made. But the weird thing is, I do remember kind of feeling like I knew I had a sibling, and Darlene, I don't even know if I even told you this, that part, like it just felt like I had, and I don't know if I had heard something when I was younger or or whatever, but it was one of those things where I was like, wow, I want to find this person. And so I think I had brought it up to my mom, and she was like, no. I said, so and so, I won't bring up her name, but she was like, I'm like, well, so and so said that I have a sister or whatever. And she was like, oh no, I don't know what I had. They covered my eyes when I had the baby and just took the baby away. So that was really the extent of our conversation. I think I was too scared to ask more because in our family, and I think this was pretty normal for like that time, is we just didn't talk about stuff. Like they just kind of put stuff under the rug. And so I wish I would have asked more in that moment, but I think just intuitively I was afraid to ask her because I felt like it was not like, it was a hard story for her to tell. So I didn't bring it back up. But of course I thought about it, after that. And I was like, I want to find her or him. And, but I didn't even know what to do. And so I was going to go back and ask my mom, like, hey, what hospital was the baby born in? I want to try to find my sibling, but I never got around to it. And I know why, is like, by that time I had 2 children. They were very close together, and I was just in the trenches with them and had health issues and stuff. So it just kind of it kept getting pushed back. But I always wondered, and always felt like I had a sister. And I don't know if that was influenced by, an aunt telling, thinking that it was a girl or whatever. So, but I just always wondered, because I knew that she was at least a couple of years, she, whatever, a couple of years older. But I started to feel more of a tug in my heart to find her. But again, I didn't even put two and two together, because I think at that point, they had like those DNA kits or whatever. And I think I had gotten, like, my husband had gifted me one for Christmas, but it didn't even dawn on me that that could actually help find her. So anyways, what happened was, though, I got how did that happen? So a cousin called me out of the blue, that we don't talk like a whole lot. And she said, hey, do you know that you have a sister? And I was like, as a matter of fact, I do. And she's like, oh, well, I had no idea. And I was like, well, yeah, probably not. It's not like something that, the family talked about. I mean, I think there was probably shame or whatever. Again, just stuff that we didn't talk about. So anyway, she's like, yeah, well, she reached out to my mom, and I just, I was like, I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, give me her number. I'm like, please give me your number. So I didn't get her number like right away. But I think what happened was, I realized that same day that someone had started following me on Instagram that I didn't recognize. And I couldn't really see the picture, but I do remember it being like a woman's name. So I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe this is her. So, because I didn't want to wait for my cousin to get like the number to me, because she had to ask my aunt and all that. So I clicked up on the name, and I think because my cousin maybe had told me her name, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is her. Like, I mean, it was just like, I was so excited to have, like, the puzzle pieces were like coming together. And so I went on the messenger, and I don't even know what I remember what I said. It was something like, hey, it's your sister, Temple, So, and I think you responded pretty quick, didn't you, Darlene? Yeah. Yeah. So she responded, and I was like, hey, call. And I think you called within like that evening or something, or it wasn't that, yeah, not that long after that she called. And, it was, I don't know, it was really cool, actually, to be able to connect, and just, so that's like my part of the story. Now, Darlene, I mean, she has a really cool story of how, like, because I always thought that I would find her. It never dawned on me that she might actually find me, or know to find me. I always just thought she would never know, then that I would have to be the one, to find her. So things just didn't happen the way, I imagined. So it was even kind of, I don't know, it was just a cool kind of thing. So, but Darlene, you can say like what happened for you, how you found out, and tell your story.
Well, I found out, I don't know what exactly age I was, but I think I was around 8. I was hanging with my grandma, because I was close with my grandma, because I was the only child, like Temple thought she was. I didn't look like sibling. I didn't look like, let's see, cousins. Everybody was dark hair. Everybody was brown eyes, and I always was alone. And I asked my grandma, I said, why does everybody not look like me? Or why do I not look like anybody? Who am I? And she kind of hesitated, and she says, well, you're adopted. And I'm like, what's adopted? And she said that your mom and dad brought you home from another mom that gave you birth. And I was kind of confused at such an age. So I said, so this is not my parents? And she said, yes, they're your parents. That's your mom and that's your dad. It's just she didn't carry you. So as a young child, I didn't really understand. And it kind of, when my adopted mom found out, it really upset her, because it was like Temple said back then, it was hush hush. You don't say nothing about it. It's kept quiet due to, I guess, the era of in the 70s or the 80s, you didn't talk about it. So I tried to mention it to my adopted mom, and she would get real upset, and just so on and so on. So later on in life, I just let it go. And my mom and dad went through a divorce, and I got married at a young age. I had 4 kids by the time I was 24 in a real rough marriage. And after my kids got a little older, one of my kids got very sick at a young age and they said, we need to know medical records. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm adopted. They said, well, that's very important because a child really gets a lot of their DNA and their medical history from their mom. And I'm like, okay, didn't really know how to get into all of that. But I had a sister-in-law that kind of encouraged me once you put it on Facebook, put it out there that you're adopted, put your picture, put your story, whatever you want to do. So this was like maybe I don't know exactly what year it was, but I started putting it out on Facebook and got, kind of leads on it, but it was just dead end stories. And like in 2019, I had a girl hit me up that said, hello, your story is kind of like mine. And just to explain a little bit of my story, the only thing that I was told about my adoption, that my mom was 15 years old, her dad was in the military in Georgia, and because of the rank that he was in the military, that it was shamed on him to have such a daughter at a young age to have a child. So she was made to give me up for adoption, and that's all the information I was told. So that's the story that I put on Facebook, and with my picture of baby pictures, and a girl had linked to me and she said, your story is just like my mom's. And she said, we could possibly be sisters. Well, I put this off, we talked for a little while. She said, let's do ancestry DNA. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it right now. Don't have the money, just saying, I'm just trying to get a good way out of it. And later on, she hit me up again. She said, I really think we need to do this. She said, I have a coupon. She said, we can split it. I'll pay whatever. I said, okay, that's fine. So I took the leap of faith, got the DNA kit in the mail. And when I got it, did the swab, sent it off. It took like 6 weeks to get it back. And when I got it back, I couldn't even open it. And I handed it to my husband and I said, I don't want to know. He says, well, you've waited so long, just do it. And he opened it up and he said, well, the girl that you're talking to is not your sister, but you do have a mom. I'm like, I have a mom? Of course I have a mom. I said, but is it hers? He goes, no, it's not the one that you've been talking to, or her daughter. I said, okay. So he mentioned her name. So of course, everybody's natural instinct, they go looking up things. And the first thing he says, you look just like your mom. And of course, tears, cried. And I said, I really don't want to do this. He said, you've come this far, let's do it. And so I started, after I finally looked, and seen the picture, of course, it was very emotional. And of course, then I didn't know, because Temple didn't share the last name as she did. I didn't know at that time that she was my sister. And I got to digging around on Ancestry. I had a family tree that popped up because there was 2 aunts that was on the Ancestry, and I'd reached out to them, and even my mom was on there, but it was blocked, my birth mom, and it disappeared. So I had emailed one of the aunts, no response. Well, I kept going down. This went weeks on. I kept going down through there, and there was a name that kept standing out to me. And I said, I don't know why this name is standing out to me. I'll give it a shot. And it was like at 10:30 at night. And I just happened to send a message and say, hey, this is my name. How do you know this family? This and that. He goes, oh, wow. He said his mom was related somehow. I can't remember exactly to the family. He said, who are you and how do you know them? I said, well, supposedly my mom is this. And he goes, you need to call me. And I'm like, okay, it's like 11:30 at night by now. He says, I don't care what time it is, you call me. And he lived in Jersey, and we talked for like an hour, and he said that he knew one of my aunts. Was it okay to give the information? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And a couple of days later, the aunt called me and had mentioned that I did have a sister. Was it okay to give her my information? I said, of course, because me being an only child, I'd only wanted, a sister or brother. So, and I think this was right afterwards, is when me and Temple finally started talking, when I sent her a message on Instagram. And that's how we started talking.
That's awesome. I think it's amazing that you both found each other. It's interesting how Temple had the intuition. She kept feeling like that she had a sibling this whole time. Did you ever feel that too?
In some ways, yes, I did, but I guess just really just brushed it off.
Hmm. I just think it's very amazing, like how you both came together. Like you both were thinking about it, and like it just happened. And Temple, the intuition. Like, how old were you whenever you uh, felt this?
Um, I don't know. I think it was more of, um, I am sorry, there is a spider.
It's okay.
I think it was more of when I was told, it just felt right. Like, or I'm not really, I don't really know. Um, now that I'm trying to think back, it made sense. I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like, yeah, I don't know why that is not a surprise. Strange. I almost feel like maybe I knew, like, I'm wondering if I knew, like, if there was some kind of a memory from a conversation I had heard when I was younger, something that I don't remember, maybe possibly. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. But I feel like that might have been it. I don't really know. It's just so, or it could just be like that feeling, that connection, like, because we are, no matter what, like, we're connected on a soul level, right? Like we all are. So, I mean, it could just be something like that. It's just a knowing that you just can't really explain.
You
So,
both you both sound alike. I can tell in the voice. Seriously, when you talk, I don't know if you ever picked up on it, but I can pick up on it.
no, that's pretty cool.
Yes. Your voices resemble each other.
But
Seriously, it does.
what's funny though is, there was I felt like we connected right away on the phone. But then there's that, is it going to be the same in person? You're just like, oh my gosh, because like we don't know each other. I mean, we've got, like, I'm 45 and Darlene's 47, we think.
Right.
But it's like, are we gonna like each other? I hope we connect. Are we gonna be, like, there's all these like fears and just curiosities and stuff, and it, so, and just the excitement. But what was awesome is, like, as soon as we talked, I was planning to go to Georgia, I think in like a week, wasn't it a week? Yeah, I was already planning to go to Georgia like a week later, and to go see my dad, because my dad lives in Georgia. And I was like, oh, I just, like, I'm coming to see you. Like, this is not like, I'm making this happen. So fortunately there wasn't a long period of time that we had to wait to meet in person. And so that was really exciting. So yeah, when we met, it was just, I don't know, it was, huh?
We connected.
Yeah, I mean, we did connect. It was just like, and I really can't explain it. It was just, there was that something there,
Mhm.
just like a missing puzzle piece that you didn't, you weren't sure that was even there to begin with,
Mhm.
so yeah, so we connected, and it's been great. Like, it took some getting used to saying, like, wow, I have, like, a big sister. And what's crazy though, like, for me is, I went from an only child, till I was 21. And then my mom, whatever, I don't even know how to refer to it. Not used to that. Like, she had remarried and had two boys with my stepdad. So, like, I went from only child to two brothers, which was different. Like, you go your whole life, you don't have siblings, and bam, okay, now I have two brothers. And then I go another, from 21 until my 40s. Then I get another sibling. So I've been able to experience, like, the full range of not having siblings to having two to now three. So it's a really, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like, honored to be able to experience that, and this has been such a gift,
Right.
for me, and I'm sure that Darlene feels the same.
I went from an only child to 6 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know,
Wow.
like, so if you want to tell your story, like, also what happens, like, so we got together, we saw each other just briefly in Georgia, and then did you come up and
I
visit
went to
me?
Pennsylvania for a
Yeah,
week.
then she came to Pennsylvania to visit me, and we were going through all the pictures and stuff. I was able to show her, all the pictures that I had, and she brought her pictures up, and she was still like trying to find her biological father. And what happened with that? Like, did you bring some pictures or something?
No, I was told names, but it never really matched up. But
Okay.
there was a name on my ancestry results that kept coming up that was a very close family member, because it tells you in sequence of segments of how close this family member is. And it was like an uncle, and I had reached out to him, which he was a lot older, and I guess computers and stuff would, that's not used to it. He really didn't understand. And I happened to look this gentleman up on Facebook, and he had a daughter, and I said, well, maybe she knows something about it. And I had reached out to her, and it was like instantly she says, I think I know who your dad is. And I was like, okay, how would you know this? And she went into this long story about how his name has changed. And she said the only thing that she could tell me is that he passed away at that time was like a year and a half ago. I think it was right at 2 years. And she had gave me all of his information, and I had pulled the obituary up and had pictures, and we was coming home. She was bringing me back. We was meeting my husband in Pigeon Forge that next day. We was going to hang out with her and my 2 nephews and have a day together. And he was coming up, and we was going down the interstate, and I showed her a picture, and she said, holy cow, that is your dad. And I'm like, no, it's not. I don't look like him.
It was like a moment, like
Said, that is your dad. I'm like, no, I don't look like him, because I'm not used to having people that look like me. It's different when you finally see people and you're like, oh Lord, I do look like
your
somebody.
baby picture.
Yeah, it was my baby pictures. And she said, you need to look and see if he's got kids. Look. So I'm riding up the road, writing all these kids' names down. And I said, I really don't want to do this. I said, but what's it going to hurt? So ended up emailing I've already met my brother and 2 of the sisters. And it was instantly, maybe an hour. I had the brother email me back and was talking to me, and he was really excited, really didn't know what to say. I think we were all in shock, and ended up, and he says, I guess really what got to us, I started sending pictures of me and my kids and my 3rd child, which is my son. He said, oh my God, he looks just like me. And when I put the pictures together, they're identical. They could pass as brothers. And I said, this is my brother. Oh my God, this is my dad. And I said, I don't even know if I have to do DNA. But I guess his wife and them convinced him to do the DNA, but he ended up doing 23andMe, which was very confusing. I had to like match our DNA together to another app, but it come back that he was my brother. And he then told his 2 younger sisters, which weren't, one of them wasn't too excited about it, but the other was real excited. And we had planned that next June to meet in Georgia at a mall, the big mall of Georgia. And I could feel the chemistry, the connection between me and Gare, and that was his name. But I'm now went from an only child to the oldest of 6 brothers and sisters.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
He was very excited because he said he wasn't the oldest anymore, that somebody else could get picked on. But we all have met and we talk occasionally, but it's still, I think me and Temple are the closest. We've connected more than anybody I've met within my family.
Wow. I just think it's amazing. Like, I think it's great. Like, did you compare pictures since you got together?
You can really see it when we have like the cheekbones. I mean, we have a lot of features alike.
So. Right. I think it's cool that you got together. Now your mom, Beth, you have the same mom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, did
Same
she
mom,
ever
different
meet you?
dads.
Yeah, did she ever meet you, Darlene?
Uh-uh. But it's okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's something that like I didn't know if we should bring up or not because it's such kind of a sensitive
mhm,
topic because of
I
you know
understand.
others involved. Like we don't, it's like I don't want to hurt anybody, but at the same time, this
Right.
is still our story. And then I thought, you know, maybe we do, but out of respect, we just, you know, we'll just tell like our side. But I think it is important to bring it up because I think so, you know, when I found out I had a sister, you know, I reached out to my mom and was like, hey, you know, my sister found me. I don't know how you feel about this. And so she was like, I could tell she was in shock because I think it's a part that she just, I don't want to speak for her, but it must have been traumatic for her is all I can imagine. And because of that that time period, you know, a lot of people just didn't talk about stuff. So I think it was too much for her. And I think, I don't remember really what she said, but she wasn't ready to meet her. She said, you know, possibly in the future, she, you know, would meet her or whatever. So I think I've never heard, my whole point of even bringing this up is like, usually with like, in my mind, like you hear of like adoption stories where, you know, the adoptive child finds like the biological parents. And usually it's like it's a great thing, like a happy ending or whatever. But this is a situation where it was like, you know, Darlene was so hopeful to meet, you know, like her biological parents and then find, you know, her father passed away. And then now, you know, our mom, it's like she, you know, I don't know what the word is, but not to be eager to meet her, you know what I mean? Is like, it's a different kind of story. It's like, wow, like how do you, I mean, it's really, you know, it's tragic, but there has to be like other people out there that have experienced this. Like, I've just never heard of it. So if that like could bring comfort, you know, to anyone else that has maybe experienced the same thing, there's, you know what I mean? Like that can help someone else. So that's really the only reason why we're bringing it up, you know, is I want to have respect for our mother because there has to be pain and trauma attached to the situation. And, you know, and we all deal with our stuff in our own way and have to be mindful, you know, of that. So, I mean, you know, I love her dearly. It was very difficult, for me to kind of digest that because, you know, I was hopeful, still am. I mean, it's, you know, we're still alive, so anything's possible. But it really was difficult to kind of navigate, you know, the last year with her not being like you know, in her life. So it kind of put a strain on our relationship, but it's like, yeah, I know this is difficult, but we still have each other and we can still make this work somehow, some way. And I don't even know, you know, it's like I'm sure is there a book on this, you know, who knows, like, how do you navigate relationships like this where some family members aren't involved, but you want to have a relationship with them. And I mean, it's really complicated and it's hard. But I feel like we've navigated through it. And now we're just at a place where we just appreciate each other and whatever comes in the future it's gonna, you know, we can't force anything. We can just, you know, have hope and faith and just really go from there. You know, that's all that I can do. And I'm
Right.
sure, you know, Darlene feels the same. So
Yeah,
In the
I think,
beginning, it was hard. So
yeah, and I think like I wouldn't, Darlene, I wouldn't get like too, I mean, it's hard like to, you know, being in this situation, you know, you're probably wondering like why the mother doesn't want to see it. I think what Temple said is probably accurate. I'd say there was trauma and I'd say there may be a little bit of guiltiness. She doesn't know how she's going to respond when she sees you. That's just what I believe. I mean, I don't know her. I can't speak for her, but like what she was saying does make sense. So I mean, that's probably a lot of it. It's probably not, you know, she's probably just nervous about it is what my opinion is of it. From hearing the story and everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll probably meet you. I mean, I would think eventually, but trauma can like really mess with people and,
Yeah, it
so.
does.
But I guess one of the questions I had was like the genealogy part of it. How did you even know where to look? Like, could you tell the audience, like, where do you go? Is there a website? If you're trying to find a family member?
Well, like I said, I did ancestry DNA, and there's also 23andMe, and I think there's another one that just come out, but I ordered the kit online. It sent it directly to my house, and you have to, it's disgusting, but you have to spit in a tube to a certain line, and you seal it up, put it in a package, send it off, and they analyze the DNA. And it's the longest 6 weeks. I mean, it was literally 6 weeks to
Wow.
wait. And they'll send you a link, and they sent the package back to me with all the information, and I pulled it up, and it automatically, if anybody else has done the ancestry DNA, it automatically will connect and show you like your closest family members, all the way down to first, second, third, fourth cousins. And some people have family trees where you can go click on them and see how you're related to this person. So really that's where, if you know nothing like I did, it's tough trying to figure out, okay, how does this person go with this person, so on and so on, just because the guy that I spoke to had a totally different last name than anything else. So it's like, well, how does this person know this person? And so it linked because his mom was on the family tree as our family was. So it kind of just linked it all together.
Wow. I'm just impressed with that they can even do that.
I know.
Like, wow.
I'm scared to do mine. I haven't done mine yet. I'm scared.
Yeah.
It's amazing what a little spit will do.
It was the
Goes a long
70s.
way.
It was the 70s, and my dad said, "Well, I don't think you have any siblings that I know of."
Because when my biological dad's wife found out, I have met her, and she's been very accepting. When she found out, when my brother had told her, she flipped out. She's like, "Oh no, he cheated on me." Da, 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 da. And and it's like, Mom, she was born like 3 years before you and Dad met. She said, okay, I'll meet her then. It's just
I can bring up all kinds of crap. Like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, what time is
so you're sitting here in the middle of it going, oh, what have I started?
Funny.
It's been all good. I mean,
Right.
I got a best friend, and I got a sister, and then like I've told her before, we're blood, and being adopted and knowing that you share the same DNA with somebody is hard to explain.
Right. Well, I think
it
it's
has to
great
give
that
you some peace.
Yeah.
Right? A little bit of like something.
I
like
have
a belonging.
kids. I have kids, and they didn't have the closest of family members, with my ex-husband, their dad. So, and they've always said, Mom, maybe one day we'll find out, maybe you have sisters, maybe you have brothers, maybe we have grandparents, because they really didn't have grandparents. So my second daughter was the one I called the minute that I found out. And, my husband's showing pictures, and she's like, oh my God, somebody looks like you, because that's when the thing that I always remember when Temple, when she met my 4 kids, well, 3 of them, and some of my grandchildren, and my son was just sitting there staring at Temple. And I'm like, son, don't stare at her, quit staring at her. He says, but Mom, you look like somebody. Y'all look alike. This is just weird. We've never had somebody, to look like you besides us kids. And so it's interesting.
Right. Now your adopted parents, how did they handle this? Or don't you want to talk about that? You don't have to.
My adopted mom, we've never really had a good relationship. There has always been battles with this, but I really didn't go into details with her because I guess because I have so much trauma with her that in my mindset that you really didn't tell me a lot, you would get upset and mad at me. I really don't think you have the right to know, any information, but we still don't really talk. I haven't spoke to her in a while. Now, my dad, on the other hand, he's okay. He's asked me questions about it and we've talked some about it, but as far as him being upset, my adopted dad is really laid back, is a laid back person.
Mhm.
So he supports me. He said he's happy for me to know that I've got, closure of knowing who I am, where I come from, and who I look like. Because like he said, not being adopted, he said he couldn't imagine how I felt, and he said he wished he could have gave me answers, but he couldn't because
Right.
it was a hush hush thing. So
Well, I think your story is such an inspiration. I think it's going to help a lot of people out there. Because there's a lot of kids that have been adopted, and I'm sure they want to find out who their biological parents are and siblings and all that. So, I really think that, if they're watching, this will be a great help to them. So, I'm inspired by your story. I think it's amazing.
thank you.
You're welcome. Um, is there anything out there else that you want to talk about, or like if you want to give out your contact information for anyone that has a situation like yours? I mean, that's up to you. You don't have to give out anything if you don't want to. I just always open that up at the end of the show.
No, I think, well, so Darlene is, I think this actually may help, is so together her and I'm helping her write her memoir. So I feel like this is going to have her full story and, really help people that might be going through something similar. So, and I feel, and it was one of those things where, the idea kind of, I was telling Darlene, the idea kind of knocked me off the couch because she was really struggling. And I'm like, Darlene, I feel like you should write a memoir. I'll help you if you want. I'm like, I don't know why this is coming up, but I feel like maybe telling your story will be healing. And with her just talking about the stuff that she's gone through has already, it's healing her. So I think this is going to be like her gift to herself and to others, is having this, memoir come out. So, I think it's going to be really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, is there
I've
anything you
always-
want to say, Darlene?
The only thing that I have to say is I've always told a lot of people that when they find out I'm adopted or somebody has an adopted child, they always ask me for advice. And I said, the only thing that I can say is I know it's hard for an adopted parent, possibly to have a child that doesn't biologically belong to them. But in time, I think every child has a right to know who they are, where they come from. I mean, because medical is very important. Because growing up, I had a lot of medical history, medical problems of my own that I couldn't fall back on. Every time I go to the doctor, well, we need to know what your medical history is. And I just have to say, I don't know. And then when my daughter got bad sick, they said it's very important. And I said, if there was anything that I could do to get that medical information to save my child, to help my kids in the future with their kids, to know, hey, this is what runs in our family. It's very important, even though it's a tough situation, a tough thing to talk about. They just really need to know that that's the most important. It's not that we don't love who we were raised by or, we don't care. It's just knowing that information. It really heals you. It helps, put a lot of things behind you, even though things come out for the good, things come out for the bad. Either way, if you can help that person, you just got to kind of, like Temple has said, kind of put yourself in their shoes. Don't just think about yourself, even though you're thinking, oh, they're going to hurt me. They're going to leave me. I'm never going to see this child again. Some situations are great, some are not, but every child, I think, has a right to know who they are and where they come from.
Yeah, I agree too with that. Well, thank you both for coming on the show today. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone out there for tuning in to the Crystal Starnes show that airs on Just TV. And a big shout out to Jesse for having this show on the network. I'm so grateful that we're able to do this on Just TV. So thank you everyone. And till next time, go out and do something good for yourself or someone else. Take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thanks.